crossed a busy highway, killed people who were commuting at that time in their cars.
It's 8:30 p.m. at Jorge Newbery Airfield in Buenos Aires, Argentina. A Boeing 737 flight crew prepares for takeoff. Their plane is operated by the Argentinian airline LAPA.
Jamaica?
No.
Hey, Captain.
Hey.
The captain of LAPA Flight 3142 is Gustavo Weigel. He's an experienced pilot who's been flying for more than 20 years. First Officer Luis Echeverry has logged more than 500 hours in the 737.
Total fuel required, 8,500 kilograms to be transferred to the wings.
Along with the pilots, 3 flight attendants and 95 passengers are on board.
Before start checklist.
Before start checklist.
The crew is making last-minute preparations for takeoff.
Cockpit preparations?
Completed.
The relationship between the crew seemed to be very close. It appeared that they were friends.
You guys should come for dinner in Cordoba.
No, we're seconds away. You should probably get back there and strap in.
Cleared for takeoff, LAPA 3142.
Taking off.
Flight 3142 speeds down the runway. As the aircraft lifts off, it's immediately apparent that something is wrong.
The plane begins to take off, but instantly it starts shaking like it was going to fall apart. We all knew something was going wrong.
What the hell?
Hurtling forward at 160 knots. The 737 slams violently back to the ground. They're now headed straight for a busy highway and an industrial gas plant.
No.
The airplane crossed a busy highway without warning, killed people who were commuting at that time in their cars.
Flight 3142 slams into the gas plant.
I could feel extreme heat all around me. I was suffocating. And I needed to get out, but I couldn't release my seatbelt.
Rescuers race to the site of the crash, but survivors on board don't have much time. Fire threatens to consume the entire plane.
I felt like I was dying, and someone said to me, "Get out."
Though badly injured, Marisa Beiro is lucky to survive. The crash has killed 60 passengers, 3 crew members, including both pilots, and 2 motorists. It's a disaster unlike anything Buenos Aires has ever seen before.
It was a major calamity. It involved automobiles, it involved a natural gas regulating plant.
Horacio La Rosa is a senior investigator for Argentina's Accident Investigation Unit.
They try to focus on the job and look for details that later on could be harder to find.
Because the 737 is American-made, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board joins the investigation.
Whatever you need, we're here to help.
There was just a tremendous amount of public concern and a great deal of encouragement to try to solve this definitively and quickly.
One of the big questions was, how did this aircraft go off the end of the runway, especially on takeoff?
I was able to observe with some of my colleagues that the aircraft's flaps were apparently not extended.
For takeoff, 737 pilots must always extend the plane's wing flaps. The flaps increase the area of the wing and give it extra lift. Without them, a fully loaded 737 cannot get off the ground. Did the flaps retract during the crash, or were they never deployed in the first place?
Oh, yep.
The team on site retrieves the plane's black boxes. In a nearby hangar, investigators carefully examine every wire, gear, and screw of the wing flaps, the jack screw, which acts much like a jack used to lift a car. As it turns, it moves a nut that extends or retracts the flaps.
The lever's pretty banged up, but it sure looks like it's in the flaps up position.
The astonishing discovery reveals the flaps were never extended. Flight 3142's configuration for takeoff was all wrong.
How could an attempted takeoff be made with the flaps in this position?
Investigators want to know how the experienced crew on board Flight 3142 took off without their flaps extended.
You find yourself wondering, why did this action not take place when it is indispensable for flight?
The crucial black box data finally arrives from Washington. The flight data recorder confirms suspicions.
With no flaps, they stall, they get the plane back down here. 50 meters from the end of the runway, there's no way they could stop in time.
It verifies the flaps were not extended, but not why.
The only possibility was in the voice recorder.
Investigators begin by listening to what was happening just before takeoff.
Just waiting on our fuel. Besides him.
Any other guys you're interested in?
Yeah, but you don't know him. I haven't seen him in a while.
What they hear from the crew is astounding.
The whole thing's getting complicated.
Breaking my heart.
Not only unexpected, but entirely unprofessional.
They should be running checklists. What's going on?
They're required to have a sterile cockpit. Once you start the engines, up to 10,000 feet, you talk only about operational procedure. And this is to prevent distraction.
You guys should come for dinner in Cordoba.
That sounds good. What should we bring?
You can bring the ice cream.
4-star checklist.
They're talking about planning a meal together. They're talking about their romantic lives. And this is interspersed with the checklist.
Cockpit preparations.
Completed.
The checklists were interrupted and were performed incorrectly.
Flaps are part of the before takeoff checklist. Do they even do that?
Anti-ice.
Off.
Start levers.
Idle stop.
Ready to taxi, 3142.
Don't smoke all of it. Give me a puff at least.
Even a puff can make you looking gray.
They're actually smoking in the cockpit.
3 of them were passing a cigarette, which is prohibited by the company. They're not supposed to be smoking in the cockpit at all.
The reason the crew failed to extend the flaps is now clear. They were simply too distracted by their own careless behavior. But what investigators hear next is even more shocking. It's an alarm, warning the crew of their mistake.
The sound of the alarm was loud. It could be heard perfectly in the voice recorder many times.
Everything seems fine.
How could a crew forget to perform one of the most basic takeoff procedures and then go on to ignore the loud, persistent warning designed to alert them to their serious mistake? 65 people lost their lives because the crew wasn't paying attention to what they were doing.
Why didn't they do something?
By not maintaining sterile cockpit and following every checklist and doing exactly what you're supposed to do, people died.